that if it's in the right context.
Okay, so my thoughts on Captain America Civil War. Look, everybody obviously loves it. You go on YouTube, you go on the news, you go wherever you want to go, and people are loving this movie, and for good reason as well. It's written very well. People are following the story really nicely. There's a lot of heartfelt moments, there's some comedic moments. It kind of fills all those sort of little demographic gaps that need to be filled in order to make movies popular, and that's fantastic. The other aspect of it, it's got a good precedent behind it. It's got all these movies. I think at this point in time it's got like maybe 18 movies, or it's like 15, 18 movies behind it of all the different characters, sort of establishing this background so that everybody's aware of, so that they can be more into the characters in this particular film. And that's an advantage that it has definitely over DC. So here's the question, is it that good? And the thing is, when you look at it in isolation, people obviously think it's pretty good. But in context of where it is in the year, in terms of Batman vs Superman came out, and what people are going to naturally do is they're going to compare Batman vs Superman to this new film, because they're so, I think they were within about sort of, I don't know, a month within each other, or even less than that, certainly in the American audience. And people are going to compare those two movies, because BVS had a massive amount of problems. So anything you watch after that, in that particular genre of film, is going to be obviously compared, even though people might not want to, and that's going to prop up Civil War even better in terms of opinion. But was that reflected in the box office? Interesting question. Marvel movies to date so far have done reasonably well. They've done between, say, the Avengers, which is in the $200 million range, down to the second and third Avengers, the third Iron Man, which is in like the $150, $160 million range, and then Captain America Civil War does the $160 or something million range. The box office earnings for these movies are coming down. If you look at a scale of these, especially the Marvel movies, the box office earnings are coming down, starting with the first Avengers films. So why is that? Well, I have three reasons. Number one, well, there is a massive amount of the audience which are heaps into the comic books, into the lore, and are the reason why these movies are so successful is because they're making movies around stories that people have grown up with through the comic books and through TV series and so forth. While that exists, what the movies have done is they've slightly modified the comic book story and the story established in the past to serve the purposes of a screenplay. And what that does is that it slowly kind of diverges the audience between the comic book hardcore fans, or what they call the fanboys, or the Marvel fanboys. They've diverged them with the people who just enjoy movies, and that is actually slowly splitting, you'll notice, as the movies take a different direction. And the same thing can be said about something like Star Trek, where they've taken a different direction as well. Number two, a concept that people on YouTube in particular are calling superhero fatigue. Are we starting to suffer from superhero movie fatigue? And a lot of YouTubers will adamantly say no, people are absolutely loving this stuff. That's why it's making heaps of money all the time. But if you look at the scale and you look how the money's decreasing, I'm talking about the opening box office, not the overall earnings. These movies are still earning, most of them, over $1 billion over their lifespan out in cinemas. The box office earnings and the opening weekend is coming down slowly, and the reason for that, the second reason for that, I think, is that whatever you want to call it, whether it be superhero movie fatigue or Marvel fatigue or whatever you want to call it, it is happening to a degree. People are still enjoying the films, but people are not rushing out on the opening weekend to see it. The fanboys are, the people who grew up with comics are, but the general movie-going audience, which actually constitutes the majority of the audience who goes to see these films, from what I understand, they're becoming smaller and smaller because they realize they know what they're going to see. They're going to see an epic film with epic special effects, a powerful story, with people who have superhuman abilities, and they understand that. And the more of those they see, the more of those they don't need to see, unless it is completely new and different. And that's going to be the challenge of the studios for the future, to make things different. And that's why they're going into all the different specialties. I mean, now they've just announced the Black Panther film, Captain Marvel film's coming out, which is the female superhero in the Marvel universe. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is happening. Thor Ragnarok is happening. They're going into all these different directions in terms of films to try and keep that interest going. Number three. In terms of a movie-going audience, an audience will automatically attach to a number of characters from the initial movie. So you've got the initial Avengers movie, and the audience are attached to those characters. Captain America, Iron Man, Scarlett Johansson's character, Black Widow, the Hulk, Bruce Banner's Hulk, and so forth. They're attached to those characters, but as time goes on and those actors get older, and also they're trying to find new directions, we get new actors stepping in, like the Chiwetel Ejiofor, I think it is, who plays Black Panther. And you've got recently Tom Holland in the latest Civil War movie, who's coming to take on Spider-Man's role. Even Paul Bettany's come along and he's adopted the Vision. And as these characters are slowly increased and the audience and they also start to diverge, like Thor wasn't in Civil War at all, as more characters are included and the original characters become older and less included in movies, that initial audience is going to be replaced, but also going to be smaller. The initial audience is the largest audience we'll ever see. The original Avengers had over 200 million. It's the biggest earning Marvel film still to date. And you'll notice as time goes by and all these spin-off movies happen over the years, you're going to find the audience is going to be slightly smaller. The box office earnings is still going to be massive compared to the average movie. They're still going to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of the opening weekend, but you're going to see a consistent fall. This is just my belief anyway. There'll be the occasional blockbuster which will suddenly burst through and hit the $200 million thing for whatever reason. Maybe there's a super famous actor coming in there, or somebody's going to be advertisers are going to be dying in the upcoming film. But this is how I believe the trend is going to go. So when we're talking about Civil War, what are we talking about? We're talking about the culmination of 3 Captain America movies, but we're also talking about technically the 3rd Avengers film in my opinion, and the opinion of many others as well. You've got all of these characters interacting, and they all shared an excellent amount of screen time together, a very good amount of screen time. The only person I'm getting a little bit sick of is Tony Stark. He seems to think that he is the champion of the Marvel cinematic universe, and to a degree he is initially. But I like the humble hero. I like the hero who is not aware of how awesome he is, and that's why people like Thor and also people like Captain America, who are reasonably humble, are more interesting characters to me. Even though the tech of Iron Man is obviously totally awesome. Civil War is a good movie. It is awesome for little kids, teenage kids, older kids like me. Every demographic, it certainly hits the spot quite well. But it's just going to be interesting to see how this will now form the rest of the universe as the years go by. I really feel like Civil War is the final movie of an Avengers trilogy, and everything after now will be gravy, and it'll be interesting to see how the box office responds to that. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Civil War and on the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole. Thanks for listening.